Live each day like it's your last. Live each day like you're writing your story because you are.
Hello, and welcome back to this week's episode of Yip To My Yap. I'm Erica Starr, and today I'm here with...
Kristina Cubero, and I'm the founder of We Exist.
So tell myself and the people more about what We Exist is.
So We Exist is a project that aims to revolutionize memorials.
Mm-hmm. And what inspired you to start something like this?
So I am an event planner. And also I have a lot of experience managing event spaces. And I want to say it was like 2016. And I was managing a space called the Lofts at Prince. And it was just super random. I'm managing this space and I get a couple of sisters that come to rent the property. Mm-hmm. And one of the sisters had cancer. She was terminally ill. Mm-hmm. So it was the sister that had cancer and then the healthy sister. So the healthy sister is helping the terminally ill sister who knows that she's going to pass away. So they don't know, obviously, when it's going to happen. And it was really interesting because normally people have a date when their event is supposed to happen, but because they didn't know when she was going to die, we were just like, all right, let's put together a contract so that they have an idea of how much this is all going to cost them. And we had like an agreement that when the sister passed away, she would give me a call and then we would basically plan this memorial for her the week of. Well, anyway, that day I'm listening to the whole thing and I'm like, okay, I've never seen anything like this. If I had to be honest, I mean, it was heartwarming because I also have a sister and I could like imagine what that would feel like. But nothing could prepare me for what I actually witnessed on the day of. So like I'm listening to them and the sisters just like, the six sisters telling the healthy sister, like, yeah, I want there to be purple. And she mentioned something about wanting the room to smell like lavender and butterflies. And like, is there a projector? Because we want to make sure that we can put up pictures of my sister and like all the moments of her life. And it was just like all like it was just like a thoughtful orchestration of like an event. And I was just like, okay, this in the moment, it felt like a little bit like odd.
Morbid?
Yeah, a little bit odd. I didn't really like grasp it. But again, I thought if my sister was dying, I would want to like help her in some way, like feel better.
Yeah.
And anyway, the sister that was sick was just super like involved and like even though she wasn't going to be there, she cared so much about making sure that like everybody had like a beautiful and comfortable experience. So it was touching. A couple of months pass and I get a phone call from the healthy sister and she says, hey, my sister passed away.
Yeah.
And she's like, so we would like to put together a memorial for her. And I think it was like a couple of weeks after and we selected a date and everybody shows up. And they just started setting up this room and it was all the things that I heard them talking about on that site visit. And it was like, just so beautiful. It was just so like touching. It wasn't what you would imagine when you go to like a funeral and then everybody is expected to be like sad and be mourning. And it was then that I realized like the environment has to do with everything. So like when someone passes away, like it's traumatic a lot of the times. And like the environment is also traumatic because everyone's wearing black and like everybody is like stiff and sad and funeral homes, like they're not providing people with like
comfort.
Yeah. It's not designed to be like a comforting experience. Like, and anyway, this was not that.
Yeah.
This event was not that. This was like an experience of this human being. And it was sad, of course, because she had passed, but it was also like a celebration of her life.
Yeah.
So this is 2016. I think it's beautiful. Again, it was super touching to me because I had a sister. It like, the light bulb went off, but I didn't exactly like, I wasn't thinking I'm going to turn this into anything. I just thought it was a great idea.
Yeah.
Anyway, a couple of years pass and I'm working at another event space. Just a big space, 20,000 square feet. And most of the events that happen there are like brand experiences, not like these social kind of events.
Yeah.
So anyway, someone comes and they say, oh, my friend passed away. Can we have a memorial at your space. And I'm like, oh, wow, like,
Yeah.
okay, this is interesting because I've seen this before.
Yeah.
And anyway, they end up doing it. And it was all that for me again, where I was just like, wow, I don't know what it is about this, but I feel like this has the ability to, and I see it right then and there. I see the effect that this has on people, and I could see the healing that it provides for people. And I was like, I want to do this.
Yeah.
So that was 2018. And I just decided, I went crazy, to be honest with you. I had like a full-time job at the time. And I just decided right then and there, I used to watch a lot of Shark Tank.
Yeah.
And like, I've just always been that kind of person since I was like a kid, that like, if I had an idea and I felt passionate about it, like I went for it. And like I said, in 2016, I thought it was cool, but I didn't think that it could possibly turn into like an actual business. Or I hadn't like developed that business side of me yet.
Yeah.
But at that point in time, in 2018, for whatever reason, I was like, ooh, maybe I could do something with this. So I quit my job from one day to the next, and I decided to go all in. Which, if you watch Shark Tank, it's not advised. Like the sharks don't advise people to like have no plan and just go for it. Like, you should have a plan.
Yeah.
But I didn't have one, and I was just like, all right, I'm gonna turn this into something. I quit, and then I just decided that I'm gonna start working on it. But I didn't know anything about death, really. My background is all in events, event design,
positive and happy
production,
and celebration.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's all like, for the most part, it's positive. It would be like people's weddings, baby showers, birthday parties. Everything was celebrating, and it wasn't dealing with grief. So I felt that it was important for me to start like researching death. So I did that. And then I just started to like build context and build connections, and I got winded by the 9th month because I needed to survive.
Yeah.
And like, it was crazy. Like, I just was super passionate. I went for it. I felt it in my heart. And then I got winded by the 9th month. And I was like, all right, I need to go back to work. And it like really broke my heart.
Yeah.
And that was right before the pandemic. And then the pandemic happened. So I kind of had to like put a pause on it. But I learned a lot of great lessons in that whole experience, because sometimes you have great ideas, you go for them.
Yeah.
And then you're like, oh shit, I need a plan.
Yeah.
So I learned through that that I needed a plan. And I spent a lot of time like frustrated as well, because I would feel like I want to turn this into something. I know that I want to help people celebrate, and I want to help people. I want to comfort people, because it doesn't necessarily always have to be like this sad thing, because death is inevitable. We all know that death is going to happen.
Yeah.
So if we could just like shine a light on the fact that like people live, and they have like, your whole life is just a collection of stories, but it's like kind of sad, you know, like people die, and then you end up at someone's funeral, and all you end up talking about is like, oh,
probably how they went, and how unfortunate it is.
And again, it's the environment. Like, you're in a funeral home.
Yeah.
It's not like a place where like the space is not designed for that, right? And I understood that. I understand that it's like, it's the setting. The setting is everything.
Yeah.
So anyway, I decided that I was going to turn this into a business, and I was like, I need an awesome name. So I decided to call it We Exist, which is a play on the fact that we exit and we exist. And the idea behind We Exist is that we will create a memorial space that's designed to help people either be comforted or help people celebrate. Because what I found in interviewing people, because last year we spent, you and I spent a lot of time going up to people. We did like close to 100 interviews last year, and we went up to people, and my question was, at the end of your life, at the end of your journey, would you rather be celebrated or would you rather be mourned?
Yeah.
And the interesting thing is that like, if you go back, it's something crazy, like 90% of those 100 people, right, would rather be celebrated.
Yeah.
And people are almost like, most people that we interviewed were almost like, it's a no-brainer.
Yeah.
They were like, of course I want to be celebrated.
Yeah.
Right? Like, who doesn't want to be celebrated? But the fact of the matter is that when people pass away, it's like the system is just not designed to help someone say, okay, you want to celebrate that person?
Yeah.
We're going to help you celebrate. Like,
Yeah.
it's just not. There's nothing that exists.
Yeah.
So I want to be the person that creates that. Like, that's
Yeah.
just what I feel in my heart. I feel like I'm that person.
Yeah.
So I went crazy. And I think that everybody is a little bit crazy.
Yeah.
You have to be crazy to like
100%.
To create something that has never existed. You have to be a little bit crazy. And I have spent now the past 4 years, four going on 5 years, feeling like that crazy person. But I know that this is what I want to do with all my heart. I want to be that conduit.
Yeah. And I mean, and you said that like there isn't an environment that exists for like this thing that happens, being death, you know? And the first thing that comes to mind for me is just the reason it doesn't exist is because it's such an uncomfortable thing. Like, how do you go up to someone and be like, okay, so this person died, like, you ready to throw a party? So it's just, how do you make that a comfortable experience for the people who are planning it for their loved one who's passing away or for, you know, the person who is passing?
So it's adopting the same. So I think that, first of all, funeral homes, they do a great job in the sense that when you go to a funeral home, everything is already packaged for you, right? Because anybody that is familiar with planning an event knows that events are notoriously stressful.
Yeah.
Right? So when you go to a funeral home, they take you into an office and they pretty much present you with a bunch of different packages. And they say to you, they just have everything ready. So like you're grieving. You don't know how that person passed. So you might be shocked, might be really sad. And they're just like A or B package.
Yeah, cremated, buried, what do you want? Like
Exactly.
Open casket, closed, like there's just very few options.
Yes, it's very few options. You're not overwhelming people. And you're really like, you're providing them with like, just like a service. It's an easy service. So what I plan to do, because I understand that people are grieving and I don't want to overwhelm people. And really, I'm just trying to get you there.
Yeah.
Is that everything that we'll be doing at We Exist, it follows that same concept of just like ease.
Yeah.
So we would basically, what I plan on doing is I plan on having different packages just like that where people can choose, right? So when I keep saying comfort and celebration is that for the person that is, it's an extremely like sad death, I'll be able to say to them, so how do you want to create this experience? Is it a comforting environment or is it like an example? For a person, let's say it's an older person, right?
Yeah.
100 years old. Most people don't live to be that old. I can tell you my grandfather, he lived to be like 92 years old and he was freaking awesome. Like he did like, there's just so many stories. Like he was in the war. He was in the Korean War. He established the first union at NYU. Just like I grew up. Oh, he was also a boxer. I just grew up like listening to all these stories and I'm like, he's a legend, right? Like he is a legend. So when he passed away, like I felt that was like a story worth telling. And I didn't, we know he's going to pass away, right?
Yeah.
So at that point for me, it was kind of like, it was sad, of course. Nobody wants to lose their grandfather. But I felt that I didn't want to hold on to that sadness because there was so much to celebrate.
Yeah.
So a person like me going into We Exist, for my grandfather, I would choose a celebration.
Yeah.
Now, in the event that somebody passes away tragically, right? Like a car accident, let's just say, it's just sudden, a heart attack. Is that family really in like the place that they can have a party? No. They're just not going to be.
Yeah.
So in that event, the family would choose to have more of a comforting type of experience. So what that would consist of is more of a subdued environment, maybe something that's not, we walk them through like just like a more chill type of experience. But again, that would consist of being able to just choose different things. We would have, it's a memorial. At the end of the day, We Exist as a space where people can have memorials. I also want to have like an event space. It's an event space for memorials.
Yeah.
And what I would want to have is I'd want to have F&B. So food and beverage, like a food and beverage program. And the idea with that as well is that people can pick like the person's favorite foods, right?
Yeah.
Maybe the person's favorite drink, right? But again, these are all templated processes. So if you come to We Exist, just like a funeral, we would be like, all right, like what was their favorite drink? What was their favorite food?
Yeah.
And then we're able to take all of that and we create that experience of that person.
Yeah.
Right? So I say memorials, but I think that people are just becoming more and more conscious. We're as a society, we're becoming more and more conscious. We're like back in the day, like talking about death was, yes, it's still taboo, but it's become less taboo because we're more conscious now, right? We have all this awareness.
Yeah, and I think part of it too is just there's a big drift from religion altogether because like as you were saying like the person's favorite food and the person's favorite drink, like all I could think about is like you're at this memorial service or celebration and you feel their spirit around you. Like I'm not thinking in the sense of like, I'm not a super religious person myself, but their essence is there. Who they are is still there. All their favorite things and all their comfort foods. Cause I'm just thinking like, about when I pass and stuff, like there's going to be Pepsi because I am a sodaholic, it's just like little things like that where it's like, even though like, I know there's going to be a lot of people in my life, like let's say I were to have this celebration who probably hate soda or hate Pepsi, but in memoriam of me, that'll be the first day they drink soda. If they're not like, if they're not into juice and sodas and stuff, that'll be the day. Or like, I'm a big, like me and my lasagna. Nobody can take me, like, my lasagna is a part of my identity. And that's something where I'm like, nope, everyone's gonna have lasagna and they're gonna have it the way that I make it. And like, let's say it was me, going into We Exist and planning my own thing. It's like, okay, well, this is the recipe. Have the person make it like this because this is how I made it. You're gonna have, I do game nights and stuff. You're gonna have games there. Like those are all things that I'm thinking about because anybody who experienced my presence in any way knows that that's how I was spending my time in my home with my friends, with people that I loved. So
that's who you were.
I think it's interesting that, I don't know, like I said, it's the drift from religion that I think makes people a lot more aware of death and okay with it.
Yeah.
But
absolutely.
One thing I was wondering is like, what was your relationship with death before the event? Like before the first event that inspired everything for We Exist? And has it changed at all with We Exist forming, or like were you always pretty okay with the idea of death?
I think I was always pretty okay with the idea of death. I grew up really Catholic. Mm-hmm. And when you grow up really Catholic, a lot of it is heaven and hell, right? So you're always thinking of the fact that one day you're going to die.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So yeah, you're always thinking about it. Mm-hmm. You're always thinking that at some point you're going to die, and you're going to either go to heaven or go to hell based on how well you lived your life.
Yeah.
Right. So I've always thought about it. I've always been very like aware, and I never shied away from it. And I've also lived my life with the understanding that one day I'm going to go. So like live it up.
Yeah.
So I've been very like driven by experiences.
Gotcha.
Yeah, always. It's my story. Like I really believe that I'm telling every experience that I have is like a story. And I think that comes from having this legend in my life, which was my grandfather.
Yeah.
He was a big storyteller. And I know that these events that we're going to be doing at We Exist, they're going to be stories of people. Mm-hmm. And I also feel like because of social media and the fact that we're always constantly uploading our stories, I really think that this idea, it lands well.
Yeah.
Because it's like, yeah, they're going to tell my story.
Yeah.
It's the idea.
Because like even for me, like when you first told me about We Exist, the first thing I could think of was when I went to somebody's, I think it was like her 101st birthday. And pretty much what it was like, she was still able to dance and move like for her age and stuff. So like, it wasn't like it was a funeral or anything, but everyone knew like, we're getting pretty close to the end if we're here for her 100th birthday. So it was like this huge party at this venue and everyone came out and it was that? It was my stepmom's grandmother. I forget. But I was just there because they were like, we're going to a party. And I was younger and I was just like, sure, we're going to a party. But like, it was a great time. Like I wasn't.
And that's like impactful. Wait, how old were you again?
I was probably like 15, maybe. I was younger. I was
that's impactful.
Yeah. I had a great time. And I was just like, and to think that, you know, because like you have this old lady sitting in a chair just kind of looking at, like the crazy thing, it was like, it was all family. So everyone who was there because of her, because she gave birth to, you know, all her kids and they all had kids and they had kids. And it's just like, I don't know, to do it while you're living it's bold, not to, like, it still wasn't a funeral.
But did she frame it that way?
No, not at all.
Oh, okay.
Like it was full on celebration, but it's like there's no way you could be there and not think that.
And not think that.
You know?
Yeah. What a life.
Yeah.
What a life.
I don't know. I thought that was so great. And me personally, I grew up in funeral homes. And for me, it's like everyone, all like the main people in my family pretty much passed away between the ages of like, what, 6 and 8, I think. And for me, deaths were family reunions because I don't have a close family.
People say that a lot.
Yeah.
And I definitely have felt that myself. Like going to funerals and I'm like, oh my God, I haven't seen you in so long, but here we are. You know, something that like before when you had asked me like what was my relationship with death before, it's super duper human to think about your funeral.
Yeah.
Like people think about that all of the time. Like it's like a superhuman thing where people are like, yeah, like I think about who's going to be there.
Yep.
Who's going to be there. And like, the cool thing about something like We Exist is that you have the ability to say who you want to be there, right? So yes, we would do memorials, but you could also pre-plan your own end of life celebration. So you yourself, you could like take hold and you could be like, this is who I want to be there.
Yeah.
And this is how I want it to be because why you're like conscious and you're not like acting like this is not gonna happen.
You know what? That's another thing.
You can have your lasagna because you said that.
Yeah.
Right? So it's that. It's like you could either pre-plan it or it's a memorial. Somebody passed away.
And I was actually thinking about this the other day because, you know, someone I went to high school with had recently passed away. And like, me and him hadn't spoken since high school. But like, you know, I know who his best friend is and I reached out to his best friend. I'm getting messages and I'm thinking about his family and I'm thinking about like all these things. And I was at the gym and I'm like, I'm deadlifting, you know, it's a regular gym day. And then I just start crying because I'm just like, it's right before the holidays and I'm just thinking about his family and just like how crazy that whole thing is. And my mom asked me, she was like, do you want to go to the wake? Like, are you going to go? And his cousin asked me too. And I was just like, honestly, like, the only reason I'm not going is because we hadn't spoken in so long. And though I'm impacted in the way that I have been, I don't want to come off as like the nosy person because that happens a lot. There's a lot of, like in my neighborhood, there's this one funeral home. And if you're just from the neighborhood and you know a funeral is happening, everyone shows up there. Like that's just the thing. People who are nosy and just want to go for the sake of knowing the neighborhood's gossip, go to that funeral home. So it's like, when you say with We Exist, like even like planning like the guest list, it's like
you can control it.
You know before you die who it is that you know and who you don't know.
Or you can also say who you don't want to be there. Because I think there is something interesting about just people coming through for you. Because think about it, like you might think that certain people want to be there, but you don't know who's going to really show up.
You don't.
That's what's so interesting about funerals, right? Because think about that. You're like, I wonder who's going to show up when I pass away. But, right, that's an interesting thought, but I think we also, to be able to control who you don't want to show up is kind of like, screw you, we weren't really cool like that.
Yeah.
Or like, hey, you know what? I don't want you to come because it's like also like a way to like say, it's a way to like set like a boundary even.
Yeah.
Maybe you had like somebody in your life that like terrorized you and you were just like.
Or like that impacted you in a negative way and they don't even know that they did that. But it's like you said, where it's like, you wonder, you know, who wouldn't show up, where it's just like, you know, like you don't know who's not going to be there. But on the reverse end, it's like, I'm pretty sure that guy would have never thought that I would have had, you know, the want to be at his funeral because it's like, okay, we haven't spoken in so long. So I feel like it's that weird thing where it's like, I know for me, like I genuinely care enough just to want to go to pay respects. But it, like I said, it also just feels wrong. So I just wonder, like, would anyone would you know of anyone who would just be like, oh, it's kind of like an open invite, like
you can definitely you can set it up like that. So it's a framework and you have the ability to choose. So you can create your own guest list or you can have a do not enter kind of guest list. You can have a do not allow entry list.
Yeah.
Or it could just literally just be that, like whoever wants to come comes.
Yeah, that's such a touchy thing because it's like.
But remember, you're not gonna. The thing with all of everything we're talking about, for the pre-planning side of We Exist Anyway, is that you're not going to be there.
Yeah.
You're really not going to be there. So this experience that you're creating is a way for you to, you're leaving something with the people who cared about you. Like you're taking control of how you're remembered, but you're also taking control of how, like, you're taking control of like that last memory of you as well. Right? Because think about that. Like sometimes people don't want to go to funerals because they don't want to remember the person like that. I know myself, like I've had people that I've lost. I had an aunt that I lost and she was larger than life. Like she was a salsa queen. Like my memories of her are this lady that was just dancing it up at every family party. And she was just so like, look, even now, like so many years have passed already. Yeah. And when I think about her like, and the reason I think about her that way is because I actually didn't go to her funeral. Because by the time that she had actually passed away, she passed away of cancer. And I remember, I think I was like maybe like 8 or 9 years old. But my mom was constantly saying to me like, oh, you know, the chemo has really done a number on her. Like, you know, I went to go see her and like, she didn't look the way that she used to look. Yeah. And that was like scary to me at that age. It was like, and then my mom would ask me sometimes like, do you want to see your tia Elvia? I'm going to just shout her out. Yeah. And I would think to myself, I'm like, not really, because that sounded scary. Yeah, 100%. You know, and like in my mind, when I think of her, I still think of this dancing queen. I don't think of this person in this casket.
Oh, and also another thing, like adding to your last memory of someone, like the fact that you can control someone's last memory of you, whether it be a party or whatever. Like I'm just thinking about because this is something I hear every time somebody passes away, when it's like, the last thing you said wasn't "I love you." Like that's always like the biggest thing. So it's just like I'm thinking, like in this whole conversation, I'm just thinking about how I would want mine, just because it's like it's an interesting thing, and I'm just like I would probably have like love notes to everybody that I care about, where it's just like, here's your last letter from me, almost like a will, not a will, but like, you know, just letters to give out to all like my main people, where it's just like, in case you know, even if we like. And it's not to assume I ever had an argument with anyone, but it's like if ever, you know, you thought there was bad blood or something.
I have this, by the way.
You have what?
I have this. I have letters. Yeah, I do.
What?
I have letters.
Do you cry writing them? Because me just thinking about them, it's like, it's scary.
I have a plan for how I want to be celebrated. I have a plan for the letters that I want to be distributed. Like my thing is completely planned.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
See, even me thinking about it, like it's wild. Like
there's things I want to say. Like I have a daughter, right? Like you don't know me.
My
daughter's name is Bella Mia. Shout out to Bella. She's 14 years old. And I write her emails sometimes. And like they're like life lessons. Again, just I can't help it. I'm just very conscious. Like, you know, you never know. Yeah. So I write her letters. And I email them to her just so she can look back on. But I also, because I know that something could happen to me, I've written like letters to like my sister. I've written letters to like just different people in my life that I want to like leave them with a thought. Yeah. But thank you.
I was going to say, like, does writing those letters push you to want to say those things while you're alive? Or because like I'm just wondering if you're writing anything in there that it's like almost like ending with a bang, like you pass away and it's like, here's something I never told you, whether it be something sweet or bad or whatever.
None of my letters are spiteful. Okay. None of my letters are spiteful. Okay. I think for me, most of them are the letters that I do have been gratitude. Okay. Yeah. Like,
but are you expressing that during your life too?
Yeah. Like I can tell you right now, like, yeah, for sure. Okay. Yeah, the interesting thing about this is that and what makes it so beautiful, right? Is that like some of these letters are like, yeah, what you're saying is like, would you share this with these people? The people that are currently in my life, yes, I do all the time. But there might be a letter there that I won't.
Got it.
I won't share it until I die. Yeah. You know?
Got it.
Yeah.
Damn. Cause I don't know. Cause
It's meant to be read later.
Yeah. Cause for me, I don't want to say for a while. I feel like I've always been this way. Like even when I was a kid and I used to talk to my mom on the phone or whatever, like my teachers would always say like, because I used to stay after school a lot doing my little after school things. And my mom used to call me a lot like, are you done yet? Are you done yet? And after every time she called, I would always say, I love you.
Yeah.
My teachers are always like, you say I love you after every phone call? Like it's been like a 20-minute. I'm like, yes, I do. Because she told me it's wrong if you don't. And I just feel like, I don't know. I just like,
I think it's a good way to live though. It's good to live conscious like that.
Because it's one of those things too though, where it's just like life is so short. People like it's the longest thing you experience, but it's nothing but a speck in time. Like, I don't know.
It's just the thing is, it doesn't have to be. I feel like it does when I talk about being conscious of the fact that you can die. It's not meant to be like morbid or negative. It's meant to be. My thought towards it is more positive. It's like, okay, this might happen, so let's just live it up.
Yeah.
Like I said to you before, like have So it's interesting that you said the thing about like saying I love you, because I actually experienced why it's good to say I love you. So one of my best friends, Joannie, she was trying to get me to go out with her one night, and I was going through something, and it was like 1 a.m, and I was like, no, I don't want to go out. And she was just like, please come out. It was Halloween. And I just wanted to stay in, and I decided not to go out that night. But the very last thing that we said to each other was, she was like, I love you. And I was like, I love you too. Literally the last text. And then I went to bed, and then I was woken up at 5 a.m, and it was such a sucky ass call. It was one of those calls like, wake up.
Yeah.
And it turns out that she got into a really bad accident, and she was in a coma, like almost died. And I was so happy that when I looked at the phone, I felt like, okay,
almost like a weird immediate closure.
It was, like, because I didn't know what was going to happen, but I knew that like the last moment that we shared was just like, I love you. Like,
yeah, I think it's super important because like when I was growing up, like I've always been super, super mushy with my mom. Like that's been, I don't know, like she's the only person I'm like full on soft for. And then my siblings were born, and then it was them, and that's it. But I was never really the type to say I love you to my dad for whatever. And I don't know why. Like I had no reason. I was just stupid. I was just being a little girl. And
being a teenager.
Yeah. And he would say I love you, and I would say I love you too, of course, but I never initiated it. And I never made it a mushy thing. It was just like at the end of phone calls, or like, that was it. Even like he would pick me up on the weekends, and when he would, drop me off, give me a kiss on the forehead, and like he would be like, I love you. And I'm just like, yay, And it was when I was like 17, 18 that I finally started like pushing it to be like, I love you. And like it kind of caught him off guard, and he was just kind of like,
because you got more conscious.
Yeah. And he was just like, I love you too. And I was like, yeah. Like, and then it just started feeling good. And then with my friends, like I grew up with, whatever friends I had from like kindergarten to, 17, 18. And then I lost those friends. But I was saying I love you to those friends my whole life, for what it was at the time. And then, you start making adult friends, and saying I love you just becomes such a like weird thing that it's like, I only say I love you to my mom, or like I only say I love you to family or whatever. And I noticed that I have a lot of friends who aren't like mushy like that.
I say I love you. I love you, Erica.
Yeah, I love you too. See? But it's like, it's this thing where I noticed like I've been like not messing with my friends, but saying it first at the end of a phone call if we've never said it. And the first time is always like, I love you too. And I'm like, yeah. And they hang up the phone and that's it. Or like when they're leaving and they're like going out the door, I'll say it down the hallway, like, I love you. And they're just like, okay, I love you too. Or like sometimes they just react a little weird. But I noticed that every time after that, they've been saying I love you first at the end of phone calls. Like they just need to get comfortable with it and know that it's okay. Because I feel like as an adult, when you make friends and stuff, like understanding that platonic love is a true thing, that it's like 100% okay to embrace one another as friends and stuff. Like, I don't know. Like I feel like there's not it's going to sound so corny. I just feel like there's not enough like love anymore between adults when it's not familial. And like, as you get older, people like they just start dying, and it's not like a morbid thing, but that's life. People die,
that's life.
And it just sucks. So I just feel like appreciating the people who are around your age and stuff, and
Yeah.
actively
It's-
loving them
It's
is
consciousness
important.
all across the board.
Yeah.
It's just being conscious.
And another thing for me too, it's like, I don't know, like something like We Exist, I think is also important because I've experienced deaths where the death itself doesn't matter to me. And it sounds so shitty, but like my grandmother from my father's side, like her and I were never really close. I didn't really have much of a relationship with her. She was passing away. There was this one day she's pretty much like, you know, she's in bed and everyone's visiting from out of state and stuff. And we're all looking at her. It's pretty much like a living funeral. Everyone's kind of saying their goodbyes and stuff. And it doesn't hit me like at all. Like I can see her and I felt like
You
shit for
probably
not
didn't
feeling
know
anything.
anything about her either, right?
No.
Like real stuff.
Yeah, but I mean, I heard stories from my dad and stuff, and I did see her here and there when I would go to my dad's house because I was older. I was like, I want to say 19. I could be wrong, and my dad's probably gonna get me for that if he watches this. But I was older, and the only reason that I would like tear up at night and cry is because I knew my dad was hurting. Like that was the part that was fucking with me so bad. Like I was just like, my dad's a grown man. Like to, you know, the dad that to you is like your superhero, your Superman, whatever. And like to know that he's like full on hurting, that was killing me. And it's just like, you know, I think about like We Exist where it's like, okay, like outside of the funeral, it would comfort me seeing him celebrate her in a space
Right.
like that. Like it's, I don't know. Like, because like I said, for me, like the death really didn't do anything for me. It was just seeing him hurt.
Right. I get that.
Yeah. But that's my little spiel. I don't know. I feel like I have a weird jaded thing with death if I truly, like, because some people are like, that's blood regardless.
Yeah. Well, the idea with We Exist really is to normalize celebrating people.
Mm-hmm.
Because right now yes, people are talking about it. And yes, people are more conscious, so they're more open to this idea. But this is not mainstream.
Yeah.
This is not mainstream, but this idea was also inspired by, so I'll tell you a story, and this is a story that like really impacted me and like inspired me as well. Celia Cruz, Are you familiar with her?
Yeah.
She passed away when I was maybe like, I don't know how old I was, maybe 12 or 13. But when Celia Cruz passed away, she was terminally ill and she knew that she was going to go. So she actually planned, so crazy. She planned like a tour, like a death tour. Like, no, really. She had a funeral in New York and a funeral in Miami and maybe somewhere else. But my mom, you know, the thing is like, my mom grew up seeing Celia Cruz. Celia Cruz was an icon. Celia Cruz decided that she was going to do a public, which some celebrities do. She was going to do a public funeral. Well, let me tell you, my mom took me to that funeral. Okay? It was at Frank E. Campbell, which is like a really famous funeral home. Biggie Smalls was there, and like just a lot of celebrities end up there. It's one of the best funeral homes in Manhattan. And anyway, it's right across the street from the Met Museum. So we ended up, we made a line and we waited, I want to say like maybe 3-4 hours to see Celia Cruz, right? But it was the coolest thing ever. When we got to Celia Cruz's casket, again, like everybody knew that she was going to pass. She was public about it. And she even released an album. And one of the songs in the album is La vida es un carnaval. So life is like a carnival. Yeah. She released a whole album about how like her life was just so much freaking fun. And she put on all these like she just made it like a party going out. Yeah. Again, I'm 13 years old. We're online for this funeral home. We go into the space and we actually made it in for the service. So they closed like everybody else was just like passing through. It was like a viewing. Yeah. But we ended up right then and there when the priest started like speaking, they closed the doors and we just got super lucky that we were part of the public that was like right in front of her casket. Celia Cruz was wearing an all white dress and she had on like this beautiful wig. And I was like, wow, like icon.
Yeah.
I was so like moved by that. I was so moved by that. And anyway, Celia Cruz is one person that like stuck with me, right? But like think about it, like she has such an amazing life. Like she did, like with the exception of how she passed,
Yeah.
right? She had a beautiful life, and like she made like a celebration out of that, and that was really touching to me. But then you have people like Kobe Bryant.
Yeah.
Kobe Bryant had a really tragic death, right?
Yeah.
But what they did for him when he passed was just so beautiful. They made a whole event out of it, and it wasn't a party. It was a memorial.
It was
where-
somber.
It was somber.
Yeah.
But it was a way of like providing the people around him with closure, with healing,
Yeah.
a platform to speak, to share. Mac Miller, he passed away. And I mean, there's another example of like a tragic death, right? They also had a memorial for him. I mean, like, it was with Kobe Bryant, like, you know, everybody remembered him, but when you're remembering this person, you're also remembering his legacy,
Yeah.
right? And like Mac Miller, it was his music, his legacy, who he was, not
Yeah.
just what happened. David Bowie, another one. I mean, like, amazing.
Yeah. But I think on top of that, on top of just remembering the person, you're also learning about them because everybody's
Yeah, that's
there.
what you-
There's a lot that
if
you don't know.
If you would have went to that funeral that you were talking about, and you would have had more like, you would have had more context, I guess.
Yeah.
You could have been like, oh wow, like there you go. I learned something that I didn't know about this
See,
person.
but even then, like I feel guilty learning that after his death, if I were to have gone. Like that, to me, that feels wrong because of how distant we were beforehand, you know?
Yeah, but I think that at the same time, like we provide comfort to the people around us if we care about them. Like that's
Yeah.
just facts, right? Like
Yeah.
I like what you
That's-
said before, because if your father's sad, you're also sad because they're sad. So like,
Yeah.
you know, I think something like We Exist could be really interesting too, because you go, and I mean, when you're at a funeral, it's just a funeral. It's just,
Yeah.
it's kind of like 2D,
Yeah.
right? But the idea with the space itself is that we would have projectors set up around the space so that we could immerse people in like photos and videos, and like that's powerful, right? So if you
Yeah.
would have ended up going to something like that, you would have
Yeah.
been like, oh, okay, like
Yeah.
maybe I see what my dad loved about this woman, right? Because you met her like later on in life.
Yeah.
Like that's like a later version of her. But in reality, like for me, just to be clear, I think it's not just celebrities. Like we're all a legend in someone's life.
Yeah. 100%.
We're all a legend in someone's life. You know, we all
Yeah.
have a story. We don't just simply exist.
Yeah. No, and something that I just think about a lot when I got older was just like I said, a lot of my friends up until the age of like 18 were childhood friends that I'm meeting people now who had no idea who I was before they met me. And to me, that's something where it's like, when I speak to people, I'm so big on context. Like, you know, when I tell stories, I have to tell you everything that happened the week before that led to that exact moment. And I feel this weird thing, and I feel like this is why I talk so much, because I feel like when I explain things to people or when I just simply speak, I have to explain why I am the way I am. And that goes back 24 years of just like life and stuff, and why I'm comfortable speaking or why I use the little phrases that I use. And when I talk to people, I feel like when I speak to someone who I've known my whole life, there's a lot about me that they just know because they know I was the nerd in school. They know that I was like a little lame sometimes. They know everything. Like they just know all the weird, quirky things that led up to who I am. And I feel like, you know, let's say somebody who I met at 23 or whatever, and then I passed away or whatever, and they see all these like visuals of me from before they knew me, and they're just like, whoa, like there was so much more that I didn't know. And it just, I don't know, for me, I feel like going to a We Exist event would make me want to learn more about people who are living, because I feel like when you're older, I don't know. I just want to be a part of all my friends' lives as much as possible. Like I want to know how you grew up. I want to know all those little things about you. And I feel like going to something like that would make me feel like I'm missing out on the people who are alive and make me want to just look into them more.
Yeah, I think it also gives people like an appreciation in general as life as like a whole.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I was going to say too about like how the way you celebrate is very dependent on the persons. Cause I was thinking of, have you seen what was it? It was the special when Bob Saget passed away.
No,
Did
I
you
never
see?
seen it.
Oh my gosh.
Oh wait, was it a roast?
Yeah,
It was a roast.
It was a roast, and I was just like, but the crazy thing though, it's like I was watching that, and it's crazy how comedians cope or whatever, because there were some raunchy jokes, but at the same time, that's who Bob Saget was. That's what he would have, like, it truly is what he would have wanted. And like, I was just watching that, and it, as funny as it was, and as playful as it was, and as light as it was, I was crying because I was like, you can tell that these people knew him so well that all of this is coming from one of the warmest parts of their hearts. And it's very touching, because I feel like to some people, it's like, how can you possibly celebrate? How can you be this positive when somebody passes away? But it's like, if you were that immersed in that person's life, you know that's exactly what they wanted. And that's why you're even that much more dedicated to, you know, in that case, roasting your best friend after they passed away. So I don't know. I feel like for anybody who's just kind of like, why would I do that? I mean, it truly depends on the person.
It truly depends on the person. And sometimes, like, I mean, I have had the experience of like going to a funeral and like seeing someone that's like in the casket and they look nothing like themselves. And I've walked away from that and I've been like, and it didn't capture that person. Yeah. It was so like, it was traumatic.
No, it is traumatic, because it
can be traumatic.
One memory that I do have, because like I said, I grew up in funeral homes, was when it's my grandma's brother. So I guess that's my uncle or great uncle, however, which way, you know, we're related. My mom went in first to go see him, and she came out like screaming, like, that's not him, it isn't him. And me, like I said, it's like, I was a kid. So of course, like, that uncle meant a lot to me for what he could have meant to me that young. But it was like seeing my mom like that, like, she grew up with him. That's a crazy experience for her. That's like, you know, I mean, it's just, I don't know how to put it into words.
So I want to touch on something, because now we're talking about bodies. At We Exist, we won't be exhibiting anyone's body. Yeah. So that's, we're literally like, we are showcasing people's memories, showcasing people's lives, their essence, but not their body. Yeah. To me, it's their spirit on display. What they do with their body will still be affiliated with funeral homes. Yeah. Again, I never want to knock the funeral industry, because 100%. I really think that like they've provided such an amazing solution. Yeah. But that's not what We Exist does. Like, We Exist is we're memorial focused, experiential, but it's because of what we're talking about. Like, I don't want to leave. It's all about healing. I don't want to leave people with that. Yeah. And also, like, our bodies, this is our vessel. This goes, we all know that, you know? Yeah. What stays, I think what's like long lasting is like the stories. Yeah. You know? So it's not about that. I feel like that's also like, you can't control how people are going to react to people's bodies. And then and there have been so many times where I've seen people who have died, and I've had that same reaction where I'm like, that is not that person. Yeah. And I feel like We Exist, it focuses less on, you know, how you died and more on how you lived. How you lived. Absolutely. Yeah. That's it. That's it. It's not how you died. It's how you lived. Yeah. And that also makes people more conscious too, right? Like, live your best story. Yeah. Cause I feel like We Exist altogether is just like, what, you know, obviously if you're not the one who passed away, you're there at the party, at the celebration and stuff, but it makes you more aware, and just, I don't know. I feel like the more we talk about it, like, any person who is a part of any kind of We Exist celebration, you leave wanting to live. Like, I feel like that's part of the point. Or you leave appreciating people, like you said before. No, and the fact that you get to, you know, be alive and exist and feel and just be. Because it's like, anytime somebody passes away, like, I get this whole, like, whatever I'm going through means nothing. Like, it's just like, I'm stressed about maybe bills, or I'm stressed about, like, you know, my next endeavor. But I'm like, I'm able to exist and live and be able to do that. Like, it's just, anytime I hear something that has to do with like death, and you can't help something close to home, it's like, I'm here. Still here. Yeah, exactly. I'm still here. Yeah, totally. Interesting. I don't know. I feel like we keep coming back to themes of life and appreciation, and just, I don't know, just appreciating what you have while you're here. Like, I don't know. So you said you have everything planned out. What does your We Exist celebration look like? What is my what? What does your We Exist celebration look like? Oh, I love this question. So we were talking about before, not overwhelming people with too many ideas is really important. So my celebration is really, it's it's pretty streamlined, right? So I have that I would like to be celebrated, but I also know that there should be a form of comfort as well. So I chose a hybrid. Chose a hybrid. So what that consists of is basically half of the event, I'd like to be more of a subdued, comforting experience. And the other half of the event, I'd like for it to be a celebration. I don't think that like you can skip over the sad part. And
Almost like a ceremony or reception kind of feel?
exactly.
Okay.
And all of the events are designed to be 4-hour experiences.
Okay.
4-5 hours max. If it's more of like a dance party, then maybe we'll have the 5 hours, but it's really that 4 to 5 hours. So my experience is a hybrid. And when people first come in, I love speeches. Like I love to hear what people think. And I'd like to have that. So the first half of my event, and all this is really science. This is 15 years of experience here. This is 15 years of me seeing how people experience life's moments. And I know that like with energy, you really have to take people from like, it's an elevation, basically. Like, so we start off with the ceremony, people do speeches, and then I'd like to have like a slideshow of like my life. And that would happen.
The part where everyone cries.
It's the part where everybody cries. And it's interesting too, because last year when we were interviewing people, some people did say they were like, I want to be mourned. And like, I get that. I feel that because you do want, to a certain extent, you want to know that people are going to miss you.
Yeah.
And I also know that
they
people
feel your
gonna
absence.
And they're also, I know there's people that are going to be sad as well. So, I think that releasing that emotion is important. So I'd like that. I would like the first hour for people to just let the feelings go, be sad, feel that, but let's not stay there. So we do the ceremony, and then from the ceremony, I'd like to have basically a party. And again, applying event principles to this. So there will be a food station. And then I'd also like to have past hors d'oeuvres so that it's more of like a cocktail party, right? And the idea is basically that people can dance, and they'll dance to all of my favorite music. So I constantly have in my Spotify, I have a list. And at We Exist, the idea is that everybody can link that list to their end of life celebration plan, so that in the event that they pass, we make sure to play that playlist. So I've been building my playlist now for the past 4 years. Actively building it.
Yeah.
With the idea that I will have that playlist ready and people are going to dance. And when they listen to that music, they're going to be like, oh, this is Kristina. Like if you really, like these events are designed for people in our lives that like cared. Like people who knew us.
Yeah, people who knew you enough to know why it feels like you.
Yeah, people who could go to a food station and be like, oh, that was Kristina loved Chinese food because I love Chinese food. You know?
Yeah.
And I also love pizza because I'm just a New York kid.
New York, yeah.
And that's in my plan, actually. I have pizza in my plan. So yeah, that's basically that. I also know that I have to maintain the integrity of people's wishes. So you can't be that specific with your pre-planning package either. I'm going to allow people to pick a couple of favorite foods. But
you need to know people are eating. Like,
yeah, but also like maintaining the integrity of people's last wishes is really important, right? So like the idea here is that you can pick a couple of favorites, but we have our own food program.
yeah.
Right? So you'd be able to like pick from options.
Yeah.
And anyway, so then I'd have food stations with all my favorites, and then I'd have past hors d'oeuvres so people can have a cocktail party and people can dance, but no sit down dinner. Just like be up,
Gotcha.
enjoy me, see my videos, listen to my music. That's so important to me. Like I really I want people to like, that list is super duper curated. Like I want people to hear Selena and then listen to like DMX and be like, all right, this was Kristina. Because anybody that knows me knows that like if karaoke comes on, I'm going to be listening to like I Can Fall in Love.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Oh,
Right?
you're dramatic.
Or dreaming of you. Yeah. But absolutely. That's the point. The point is that somebody's gonna listen to it and be like, oh my God, Kristina was so dramatic. And then the next song is like a 70s classic rock song because my dad, I grew up listening to that, but I also grew up listening to salsa. Like my dad was an American, my mom is Ecuadorian. Well, my dad's Puerto Rican, but American.
Yeah.
And my mom was an Ecuadorian, so I listened to like Latin music. I literally want my playlist to be that. Like I want there to be music for like my family that's Spanish. And then I want my father to be like, yeah, you know what? Like Creedence Clearwater. Like this was the song that I used to play for Kristina.
Yeah.
And like my sister can hear it and it'll bring her back to our childhood. Again, this is an experience of me, but it's an experience for the people who also knew me.
Yeah.
Right? So there's that. And then all throughout the space, it's just all of my memories. One thing about We Exist though is that we're not going to do themed events. The theme is the person.
The theme is you. Yeah.
The theme is you. You can't come to me and say, "Oh, I want to have a masquerade event." Like that would be a
way too much.
logistical. That would be a logistical nightmare. Again, managed a lot of spaces in my time. I've done a lot of freaking events, and what ends up making it so stressful is that you're constantly having to like source and all these things to make these themes happen.
No, and then it's the sensitivity of death. Like, how far do you go? Like, let's say it's a masquerade thing. It's like, what masks can you wear? It just gets weird really fast.
You can literally pick. It's the framework. That's the magic here. The magic is, okay, cool. Pick 3 colors.
Yeah.
Pick your favorite season. That's another thing as well. Pick your favorite season. Why? Because where do we experience life? On Earth.
Yeah.
Right? And a lot of people feel they're best in certain type of environments. And I want to give people the ability to be like, the beach was me. I was a beach girl.
Yeah.
Right? Pick summer. Cool. For me, I'm a spring girl. So my We Exist event, it has I pick spring. So I pick the format, how I want to, like what type of format it is. I pick the time as well.
Okay.
So you get to pick your 4 or 5 hours. For me, it's sunset into twilight. That is my time. Why? Because I love magic, golden hour.
Yeah.
Like I like sunsets.
Yeah.
And like, again, like I will say it a million times, if you know me, you'd be like, oh, every time Kristina saw like a sunset, she went crazy for it.
Yeah.
Like she was literally like, and not everybody's like that.
Yeah. And I mean, even me, knowing you is like all your nature posts and being one with, nature energies and all that good stuff. It's like, that's been you. Anything universe related, anything with stars, anything just about like souls connecting. That's all you. That's your thing.
Yeah. Sunset into twilight. So there could be somebody that could be like, you know what? Bob was a morning guy. Like Bob got up and loved jogging and he was just a morning guy. And like, he gets to pick that. He gets to say, I'd like a morning service.
Yep.
And I'd like that. I'd like a morning service and I want to be celebrated. Yeah. Cool, we'll do that. We'll have a party for you in the morning.
Yeah, and that's part of the experience for the people going, where it's like, if you're not a morning person, you are that day for Bob. Like that's just the way it is.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And Bob got to say that.
Yeah.
And everybody there was just like, oh, this is Bob.
Bob
is the theme of the event. Exactly. So that's the idea. The idea is to really just it's to normalize this.
Gotcha.
The idea is to normalize it. And so that people could also do this for themselves. I'm not saying, I don't want people to feel like it's like you can only do it at a We Exist space. No, I want this to be the norm. The same way people have birthday parties, I want people to like normalize this and do it for themselves.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, like We Exist is an event space and it's an investment. And the same way some people can't afford birthday parties at event spaces and people do it at their house. I'd like people to have memorials at their own houses. It's about normalizing this.
Got it. Cool. Well, I think that's a nice note to end the pod on. Do you have any last words for people listening at home? You just could leave them with anything.
Live each day like it's your last. Live each day like you're writing your story, because you're writing your story every day. Like this is part of our story.
Yep. Well, on that note, it is time we sign out. Thank you for listening, and please like, comment, and subscribe, or whatever your streaming service tells you to do to help me out. And yeah, just keep live, laugh, loving, as I say. And we'll see you next week. Bye.
Bye.